Sun Health Communities takes senior living to new heights of excitement, luxury, and fulfillment. Our partnership with Masterpiece and their Elements of Successful Aging is designed to help you lead the life you've always dreamed of. Join us for this engaging presentation by Dr. Roger Landry, President and Founder of Masterpiece.
Hey, I'm Dr. Roger Landry. I'm a preventive medicine physician with Masterpiece, and we're partners with Sun Health, and that's where I am today. For 10 years, Sun Health has led the way, in my opinion, on how to age in a better way, have a healthy longevity. And it's easy, and they know how to do it, and the residents there, they've become my friends, and I just love to see them experiencing life to the fullest. I can't say enough good things about Sun Health. They are partners, and we're doing great things together. I can't tell you how thrilled I am. I was a road warrior. I maybe did 50 or 60 of these a year until 2 years ago when I stopped, and I haven't done one since. This is the first in person that I've done. I am just thrilled to be with people because what I've been doing is down in my basement in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, all gussied up from here up, pajama bottoms on the bottom. So to have a decent pair of pants on in front of people that are looking at me, that's magnificent. It's a thrill. And it's appropriate that it's Sun Health because Sun Health is a partner of ours, has been for quite a while, helping people to age in a better way. And they're a leader, and I probably have been to hundreds of senior living communities, and they are absolutely at the top of the list. So you're very fortunate to have them here in Phoenix. Okay, that's me. Enough of me. Let's talk about you, and well, all of us who are human. And you know, every year, about a month or two ago, January 1st comes, and everyone's ready to make a New Year's resolution, right? How many of you are doing something now that you made a New Year's resolution to do? You're the exception. Congratulations. Was that to never make any more New Year's resolutions? We don't do well with this, and but you know, we use the new year as a time to look at our lives and to do better. Well, I'm going to tell you why we fail. I'm going to tell you that how easy it is to be successful. Just have to be a little more patient, and probably the things that you should the things you should focus on if indeed you want to achieve a healthy longevity. You don't want your life to look like this, and unfortunately, this is still how the lifespan of most humans. We're born, we become our very best, we go a few decades at 100%, all cylinders burning, and then stuff starts to happen, right? And we start down this road, and it continues. And now that we're living longer, we can spend as much as half of our lives in decline. Lower quality of life, expensive, painful. There absolutely has to be a better way than that. Something we all want. Well, there is. The dotted line there depicts something that many probably we didn't even understand a few decades ago, but we do now. And this is about that healthy longevity thing. So the dotted line shows us as staying at high levels, even if it's not the very top. It's, you know, maybe so we have to accommodate some things happening, but we stay at very high levels. The little dip there, that's life throwing you a curveball, which life does. The ability to bounce back when those things happen. That's what keeps us going. Most of the time, life throws us a curveball, and then we just start down this road. You know, look at all this area of life right there that you potentially miss if you cannot experience a healthy longevity. And you know, you take this road and you miss all this. You know, Ashley Montague is a writer, and he said, here's his advice: die young, as late as possible. So it's about this, being young as far as function, as late as possible. I think that's great advice. So, this we discovered about 30 years ago. The MacArthur Foundation in Chicago had Jonas Salk, the famous Jonas Salk, on their board, and if he hadn't done enough with his life, he said, let's study why some people age so much better than others. And they did for 10 years. And that study just smashed the stereotype of aging as we understood it, because it told us that how we age is mostly dependent upon our lifestyle, the choices that we make. Up to 70% of how we age. And it's never too late, by the way, or too early to make a difference when we choose certain aspects of our lifestyle to enrich them. So they found that, so that was new. But we have other examples of it. We have, if you've heard of the blue zones, I don't know if you have, very famous, Dan Buettner is an author. He was writing for National Geographic. He studied the world. He traveled the world. Where do people live to be old, 90s and 100 even, and yet are very vital, incredibly vital, like they were decades younger. And he found 5 places in the world. And there they are. This one was a bit of a surprise right here. Southern California, are you kidding me? You can maybe understand and places like this, but the reason being is that in Loma Linda, California, you may know, there's a large contingent of Seventh-day Adventists there. And they live a life very similar to these others, and therefore experience the benefits of that, living longer and at very high levels of function. So what was it about these blue zones that were so different? Movement. These people moved. They moved. And it wasn't about exercising, although most of these places didn't even have gyms or exercise machines. It's about their lifestyle, that it's about moving. It's about, for us, maybe parking a little further, taking some stairs, taking a phone call, walking around. It's about moving. And all of these characteristics, by the way, are the characteristics of how we lived as humans for 99% of the time we've been on Earth. We were hunter-gatherers. 99% of the time that humans have walked the Earth, they were hunter-gatherers. And they moved. They were hunter-gatherers. That's hard to wrap your head around that it's been that long. But our physiology is still that same physiology. Even though the world has changed drastically, our physiology doesn't. So what we need to age successfully is not a surprise that it is exactly the way humans have lived for most of the time they've been on Earth. So they moved. There was a strong social connection. This was about social support. This wasn't about Social Security or Medicare or anything. This is about having people you could depend on. And a very strong social connection, very intergenerational. A slower pace of life. This wasn't about the clock. Time for us as hunter-gatherers and in these blue zones, for the most part, is about sunrise and sunset, about seasons, the phases of the moon. Our time-based society is killing us, and we'll talk more about that. We have to live with that, but we have to adjust to that because it's killing us. We're not geared. Our 99% of the time we've been on Earth, we didn't have pace like we do now. In fact, again, there was not a great sense of time. We ate mostly a Mediterranean diet. We've just discovered that we've named it as a Mediterranean diet, but fruits, nuts, vegetables, wild grain, fish, and small amounts of meat are what we ate for most of the time we've been on Earth, and it's the basis of the diet of the blue zones. Everyone had a role. There wasn't a marginalization of older adults. We needed older adults. They were cultural treasures, and they are in these blue zones. You go to Okinawa, ask someone how old they are, they'll lie to you, tell you they're older. Because to be old in Okinawa, as it has been with our societies before the Industrial Revolution, is to be not only revered, but to be an absolute necessity for that society. Your wisdom and experience to guide the society. That's how it's always been. Only since the Industrial Revolution have we decided, older adults, they can't produce as much. We'll slip them off here and marginalize them on the side. That's only been like an instant in the time we've been on Earth, but it's how all of us, that's what we have experienced. And we were close to nature. Nature wasn't a place we visited. Nature was a place, it was us. It was our living room. And we remove ourselves from nature as we have. We try to control it. But we are nature. You share about 30% of your DNA with a daffodil, and a tree, maybe 50%, a fruit tree, even 60%, mammals, 70 and 80%, and I won't even tell you what you share with DNA with apes. We are nature. It is us. And it's not, and so closeness to nature is an important part of our well-being. Lifestyle is the determinant, and it's been proven by MacArthur, by the Blue Zones. This lady won the Nobel Prize for her studies of telomeres. I don't know if you ever read about telomeres. This is a chromosome depicted here, and the end pieces here are telomeres. They protect the DNA when the cell divides. You always lose a little bit of the end of the chromosome, and if you lost the actual DNA, the cell would die. So these telomeres protect it. They're like the end of a shoelace. And as the cell gets older, this gets smaller and smaller until eventually you lose the DNA and the cell dies, the organ dies, the organism dies. But when you live lifestyle that we're talking about here, these telomeres stay longer and longer. Interesting. And then there's epigenetics, a whole new field which has to do with gene expression and lifestyle. So here we go. So if any one of you spit in a little container for me, we'll bring it to a lab. We can map out your genome, all of your DNA. We can do it now. So we could go through that and say, whoop, that chromosome, that gives you a disease, a certain disease. And so what we have done over the years with research, now that we've done that, take people who have that gene, put them in a group here, and then another group with the same gene, put it over here. They live the lifestyle we're talking about, which is just moving, learning, being socially connected, having meaning and purpose. That's all it is. And then these people just live their life as it is. These people who live that Blue Zone, MacArthur lifestyle, they are less likely for that gene to ever express itself. It just sits there. Lifestyle can suppress the gene expressing itself. Incredible stuff. So lifestyle, even down to our DNA. So what we're really talking about here is building resilience with the choices that we make every day with our lifestyle. Moving, learning, connection, meaning and purpose. Resilience, so that when life throws you the curveball, you're going to bounce back. That's what we're talking about. So more about more about this lifestyle? So I wrote this book, but I did a lot of research on this, and there's a lot of it out there. So I'm going to give you 10 tips that you can take home on building resilience, and with that, the healthy longevity that comes with it. But before I do that, we have to talk about this question of that I had about your New Year's resolution. Why do we fail every time we try to change our lifestyle? Or, I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to lose a little weight. I'm going to read more. I'm going to improve my mind. And we just seem to fail all the time because even these things fail. So the reason for that is because we inherited from our ancestors a response to change. When there's big change, when we look at big change, we can scan brains now and we can see an area of the brain firing. It's called the amygdala. It's the fear center. So, our ancestors, when there was going to be change, that was usually threatening to them. And so we respond that way. When we see big change, we get a fear response, and basically the end of all that is that we are not likely to be successful. We shut down a lot of the faculties that we need to succeed. So this gentleman wrote a book. He's from Stanford. One Small Step Can Change Your Life. It's about the Kaizen way. Kaizen is the change in Japan. This is how they approach change in Japan. Small steps. And when we take small steps, this fear center doesn't fire, and we can be successful. So let me give you an example. So Tony, patient of mine some years ago, he was a heart attack ready to happen. He was overweight, he was sedentary, he had prediabetes, he had high blood pressure. He was a mess. And so we had been trying to do things, and he'd say, yeah, doc, I'm going to do it. He'd last a week or month or whatever, and then he'd go back to where he was, like all of us. So having found about this, writing the book, I said, Tony, how about this? For the next week, I only want you to stand during TV commercials. He says, that's it? I said, yeah, that's it. That's all. So in a week, he walks in, he's all puffed up. I did it, doc. He's building some confidence. I said, okay, now next week, I want you to walk in place during the TV commercials. You're kidding me, right, doc? That's it? I said, that's it. So he did that. So fast forward, over a year's time, in small steps, so we didn't fire that fear center, he was able to lose up to 50 pounds, came off all meds, has a whole new life of activity. I mean, he's changed because of the positive feedback that he got. Oh, you look good. He's feeling better because he's moving a little more, so he is moving more. And he just was able to turn that right around with small steps. Now, not every week or every time we set a goal did he get that. And I said, Tony, we just went too far. Just ratchet it back. So you see, if you try to run up there, okay, someone will do that, that's fine. Or if you just try to rush up, you may have to stop, catch your breath, or quit altogether. And this is a metaphor for how we approach change. But if we do it just step by step, we're patient. We can make it up that hill. We can do change. You cannot fail, actually, if you're patient and you set realistic goals, which are small. We Americans, we don't care about small goals. You're not going to walk into a bar and say, I took 10 more steps today than I did yesterday. I'd brag about that. No, we only respect large change. But that's why we fail. Small steps to big goals. So remember that as I talk about these 10 lifestyle tips that I'm giving you. So if you're going to change, do it in small steps. All right, so one more bit about the Kaizen. What is it about? Say, first of all, ask yourself, why do you want to change? Because when the going gets a little rough and the potholes or whatever, you'll remember why you want to change. The real why, like some people come to me and say, I want to lose weight, and I say, why? They'll puzzle and say, well, I want to look better, feel better. Okay, why? And then eventually you'll get there. Like I have heard, I want to get down on the floor with my grandkids or my great-grands, and I want to be able to get up. Okay, there you go. That's your why. Think of that when the going gets tough. And then, imagine yourself doing that. This is like the Olympic athletes. They picture themselves doing a slalom or skating or diving, and that programs the brain. It honestly does. And then the last thing is, what is the smallest step I can take to work towards where I want to get? And that is your goal, the smallest step, like standing during TV commercials, okay? All right, so, and then you go to your next small step. So first tip, use it or lose it. We all know this. This is intuitive. We've heard this many times. You know, you can't expect to be able to do something later on unless you do it. And so that's intuitive, but during life, we don't choose not to do something usually. Something happens. And then we can't do exactly what we did before. And if we don't respond to that, or if we're not in a place where we get support to do that, then we start down that curve, that's curve of decline. All right, here's my story. So I was in college and I had a toboggan accident. Really messed up my leg very badly. Had to drop out of school. But eventually, after a lot of surgeries and things, they fixed it. And they did. For 40 years, I basically had no trouble. I was an athlete, I was in the military. But then things began to happen because it wasn't quite aligned. So I wore out my knee, wore out my ankle. So I'm getting depressed, you know. Oh, God, geez, you know, this isn't me. This isn't who I am. You know, this happens to all of us. And I was doing a lot less of this, talking. And when I did, I couldn't find the word. My brain wasn't functioning as well because I wasn't doing much physical exercise, because when I did, it would hurt. And then when I went there, I could do less. And so I was circling the drain, circling. So the knee, I was able to get fixed. I felt a little better, but the ankle was still limiting me, and I couldn't find anyone doing an ankle. You know, what could I do? So after 6-8 months of being miserable, depressed, I found a surgeon up in Boston, near where I live, who fixes the ankles for the Celtics, by the way, and he had replaced 199 ankles already, and I was number 200. Whoa, now I'm feeling great. Oh, well, I have a future, I have potential. I'm feeling much better, I'm able to do more and more, and I'm going the other way. So it's a matter of when life throws you a curveball. Are you in the right place? Can you accommodate? Because maybe I can't run, I can't jump, but I can ride bicycles and I can hike and I can walk and I'm doing what I want to do. But if there was something that I really love to do and couldn't, I just have to accommodate. Look at Stephen Hawking. Look what him. He could only move his lips, and he had a full life and contributed to the world, our knowledge of the universe. So use it or lose it. You know, when the astronauts, the Apollo astronauts went into space, when we didn't understand weightlessness, they came back with having lost a whole bunch of muscle mass. The bones were thinner. And this is in a very, very short time. And this is what happens to us. Keeping moving is very important to us. We are creatures of movement. Our ancestors moved. We're finding that if we move, I'm not saying exercise now. Nothing wrong with exercise, but exercise can be intimidating. If our lifestyle is one of moving, we think better, our GI tract is better, our heart is better, nervous system, everything is better when we move. And yet, we're becoming a sedentary society. More than half our population meets the definition of being sedentary given by the Surgeon General. And so when something happens, we have to accommodate because things will happen so that we can keep doing this. This should be somewhat intuitive, but it's really not. There was a recent paper in the Mayo Clinic. The title of the paper, "Sitting is the New Smoking." He had done all the work and actually found that the risk of bad things happening from cancer to dementia to heart disease occurred more frequently in people who led a sedentary lifestyle than people who smoked a half pack of cigarettes a day for their lives. And we all know that's not a good thing. And so sitting is indeed the biggest risk that we're seeing in our society right now. $53 billion worth of healthcare costs are related directly to sitting. We tend to sit most of the day, you know, even if someone goes to a gym, works out for an hour, and then goes sits at a computer as a job or as an avocation, and we take elevators, escalators, and cars, and we don't move as much. Now, maybe we have some problems we're dealing with. Accommodate, you know, walk a little bit at a time, kites in it, you know, and so that you increase that. And if you're confined, you can't even walk. Well, there's a way to do isometric exercises and to move your arms, move what you can. Moving, critical, and accommodating is critical. How about the brain? We're learning such great things about the brain. Nola here is an icon. She was the oldest one to get her undergraduate degree at 95. And, you know, she realized of a new discovery that we have had over the last 15, 20 years, a thing called neuroplasticity. This is the lifelong ability of the brain to rewire itself in response to disease, injury, or what we ask it to do. Jill Taylor was 39 when she had a stroke, terrible bleed. She was a neuroanatomist at Harvard. So she knew about the brain. She knew about this trait of neuroplasticity. So you can see her today give a TED Talk, Jill Bolte Taylor. It took her about 5 years, but initially she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, she couldn't do any of that. But she realized that neuroplasticity, she was able to rewire her brain, that the cells were dead, they weren't coming back. So this is new pathways that she was building. And you'll see her on a TED Talk. You'd never think that she was at one time unable to talk or walk. This is incredibly optimistic. So how does this work, this neuroplasticity? Well, when we stimulate our brain, first of all, we have to feed the brain because this requires oxygen and it requires nutrients. And so we have to move, and eating is an important part too. But the second thing, very important, learn new things. New things. You do crossword puzzles, that's great, keep doing them, but it's new things that really stimulate these new pathways. And you start something new, you get a little trail, you keep doing it, it gets to be a road, and you keep doing it, it gets to be a superhighway. It's like athletes. And it's the same. So now we scan brains and we can see brains getting heavier as someone does something new. Learn a language, learn a musical instrument, those are big things. But even small things like eating with your opposite hand. A few more napkins, that's all you need, right? Putting your makeup, you always start on the right side, you start on the left side. Shave. Don't shave with one hand. I won't do that. I mean, with your opposite hand, but you know, start on the other side. Get out of your comfort zone. Shake it up a little bit. Scare yourself a little bit. Get lost. You have GPSs that will get you on track again, but get lost. My wife and I went to Greece. I had to practice what I preach. We went to Greece for 2 weeks. We only had one hotel room the first night in Athens, and nothing else was planned. We just did it. And it was fantastic. It was such an adventure. You know, it wasn't all efficient, but it was very stimulating. And so, you know, we tend not to do that as we get older, but the brain loves it. And it is neuroplasticity. So we did a study on nuns in the Midwest, and they seem to live a long time. So we were studying, why is that? Well, part of what we found is that some of those nuns, when they died, and we did a post-mortem, they had Alzheimer's brains, tangles, plaques, but they had no symptoms of Alzheimer's. Whoa, the researchers were really surprised at that. What's going on? Well, we know now what's going on, but so the lifestyle they were living, moving, learning, socially connected, meaning and purpose, that we know now can push the onset of symptoms of dementia in some people, not everyone, most, so that it never, and for the nuns it never occurred, but the symptoms occur later and later, if indeed we move and learn. These are not hard things to do. We just program them into our lives, shake it up a little bit. So this is very optimistic stuff. Old dogs can learn new tricks. Connection. We connected as humans, our ancestors connected. Had they not banded together, we wouldn't be sitting here today. The human species would not have made it. We banded together, and that allowed us to survive. We are creatures, no matter what, that need connection and need to be with others. Haven't we gotten a dose of loneliness in the last couple years, some of us? I know the people here don't feel that, and they give testimony, well, I was glad I was here because I would have been home alone, and that would have been incredible. You know, Canada and Britain see this as such a problem. They have a minister of loneliness. This is becoming a big problem. You know, the usual life, you know, okay, you're doing all your thing, you're loving it, you're in your house and everything, and you know, friends are moving away, friends are dying, you know, your kids and all the contacts you had through your kids and other things, they're kind of giving way, and so more and more we're getting a little isolated. Your spouse dies, now you're really in trouble. Because the house is a great place, and it was a harbor, and great things happen there, but nothing is happening there relative to your life and your lifestyle and moving and learning and being socially connected. So this is incredibly important to us. It's in our very DNA. The research shows that you're 2 to 5 times more likely to get all the bad players, dementia, cardiac disease, cancer, if you don't have strong social connections. And the opposite is true. When you do, 2 to 5 times less likely. I'll tell you how important this is. I had a friend who was shot down in Vietnam. He was a prisoner for 7 years. He was in solitary confinement a lot, and he was tortured a lot. He told me that when they would come to get him in solitary for torturing, he was glad. Because humans came in the room. Humans touched him. He spoke to a few of the guards as they brought him. He didn't like the torturing, but it wasn't as painful to him as being alone. Prison system is knowing this now. They're getting away from solitary confinement because it is quite literally inhumane. And self-induced isolation, which we tend to do in our society, it's crazy. It's crazy. And that's why people live here. That's why people make arrangements so that they not only have social connections, but those social connections are going to continue as they age and as life throws curveballs. This is a critical component. This is Stamatis Moritis. He was a Greek freedom fighter. He was wounded. He's not much of a fashionista, though, is he? He was wounded. He was sent to the United States to heal. He did. He was allowed to stay. He married. He had a career. He had children, everything. And then he got lung cancer. The doc told him, you're probably going to die within about a year. He said, you know, funerals are cheaper in Greece. I'll go back to Greece, to the island where I was born. So he does. And he goes in there and he gets into bed ready to die. Nothing happens. So, like a Greek, He goes down to the local taverna, and there are all of his friends from childhood that he hasn't seen in decades. They have a grand old time. They dance it up, some wine, and it's the wine. I drink it with my friends. That is why he feels he's passed now, actually, but he made about 106. And this is, he again, attributed to the wine, but this is the close social connection that he had. I have a friend, this is a great quote he gave me, fries with friends rather than broccoli alone. That is how important being socially connected is, particularly as we age. You know, there was a time when it was, even medical people thought, you should disengage from society as you get older. Yeah, go ahead and do that. And you know, I can guarantee you what will happen. You will ultimately die, but you're going to die a whole lot, at least, probably quicker, but also with a whole lot more chronic conditions and less function than you could have. It's not the, as I said in my book, the live long, die short thing. Risks. Got to pay attention to your risks. You wouldn't think of driving to anywhere, to LA or anywhere, with a car with bad brakes. You know, so why would we go through life not realizing what our risks are and paying attention to them? My father had colon cancer. So every 5 years, when the guy chases me with a 6-foot snake, I let him catch me. Because you know what? I will not die of colon cancer. Because it's a slow grower, it's treatable, and it's detectable. So if I do my part, I pay attention to the risk that I have, I may get it, but I won't die of it. And it's that way with so many diseases. Paying attention to the risk, it seems intuitive, but we tend to, oh, it's old age, or, you know, and, you know, it's time to accommodate so that you can continue to move and learn and stay socially connected and to have meaning and purpose. Don't be like this, or worse, like this. You can't, you know, oh, I don't want to go to the doctor. I'm afraid about this lump. I'm afraid about this. There's so much we can do now with medicine. And it's not the way you learned it when you were younger, or that your grandmother or even maybe your parents went through when they had a disease. We can do things, even pancreatic cancer, probably one of the worst killers. We can, you know, we don't cure, well, there are some, but it's rare, but we can live lives that are much longer in quality. My friend got it, and for 3 years he lived high quality life, saw his daughter married, had his first grandchild. We wouldn't have seen otherwise had he not paid attention to a little bit of pain that he had. And they caught it fairly early, had some surgery, and so he was able to survive. But that said, don't let risks limit your life. Don't become a bubble person, because we have to get out of our comfort zone. We have to challenge ourselves a little bit. You know, do it rationally, do it carefully. And, you know, I have a friend said, oh, my mother just had her 90th birthday. And we had a party in the backyard, and she was late. She wasn't there. We called her house, no answer. We started calling emergency rooms, and just around then, she comes down on a parachute into the backyard for her 90th birthday. She didn't ask her kids whether that was a good idea or anything like that, but that's what she wanted to do. She was willing to take a risk that was important to her. It's important to grow. That said also, don't let others put you at risk. Now, this is a bad driver. Don't do that. But, oh, sorry. This is really a metaphor. So, taking living with your kids. They love you. They do. And they want to keep you well. They want to keep you safe. They become helicopter kids. They want to make you a bubble person because they love you so much. And so, to live the life of challenging yourself, getting out of your comfort zone, you know, trying a little something new, you know, that will upset them, and for many, and so they can limit you in your ability to grow and therefore experience a healthy longevity, ironically, because they love you too much. And it's the same with society. Society expects you to be on the margins, you know, go play, you know, and just do it. They don't engage older adults the way we used to before the Industrial Revolution, using that human capital, using that knowledge and wisdom and experience. And that's a big problem. So never act your age. If you do, you're buying into this stereotype that aging is only about decline. You heard I met Chuck. Chuck Yeager was a patient of mine, and the first time I did a physical on him at the Flight Test Center in Edwards, he was great. He was very healthy. He was in his late 50s, and he started talking, and then he said, you know, Doc, I think on the 50th anniversary of breaking the sound barrier, I'm going to do it again. Now, I'll confess to you, I was young, and I thought I had all the answers, and I was brash, and I said to the Chuck Yeager, I said, but Chuck, you'll be 73 years old then. He looked at me and said, what's your point? What was my point? A number determines function? No, not at all. That is way off, but unfortunately, that is the stereotype, and that is how our culture. I'm not being Pollyanna about this, but remarkable things happen with just small investments in lifestyle. So, never act your age. You know, Roger Bannister, he was a young guy, but you know, all the research had said man cannot run faster than a 4-minute mile. Can't do it. So Roger Bannister does it, and then within 45 days, another person does it, and now we even have high schoolers who can do it. And sometimes that's how we look at aging. That, you know, it's not seeming to, you can't do that. And I'm not saying to run a mile, but I'm just saying to do things that society right now doesn't think, or even you don't think you can do. So, remember Nola? She did get her master's at 98. And Michelangelo had something rich to say about this. You know, it's not that we miss what we shoot for, it's just that if we shoot too low and we reach it. All right, this one's important. We live in a very stressful society. Lots of stress. I'm going to tell you that most of that stress is self-induced. This is the story. We inherited from our ancestors a fear response, and it's fight or flight, you know. And this is to survive. So when something, for our ancestors, you walk along, there's a lion there, you either fought that lion or you ran from that lion. Whatever you did, you were going to do it the absolute best you could because your body was full up and was going to do it. You see a truck coming at you, you can jump faster than you thought you ever could out of the way. This is to preserve us. Now, this was meant to be short-term, and it was meant to have us do something, so usually some movement, something. The problem comes in our society today, our time-based society, and with our brain, we can induce that response on a chronic basis with our thoughts, with our chattering mind, with our to-do list, with our worry about the world, with our worry about our finances, we're worried about, you know, where should I live? And that person, or going back, and that person, you know, is so mean to me, I'll never talk to them again. And you just get consumed with these thoughts, and you're never here in the moment. This is the only place you can live your life, ladies and gentlemen, is in this moment. And most of the time we're out of it with our chattering mind, and that generates stress. And with stress comes $7 billion worth of healthcare costs. About 80% of our medical visits are stress-related in some way. And so that is self-induced because it's coming from our thoughts, which generate our emotions, which generate actions. You know, so is anyone an artist here? All right, so when you do art, what happens to time?
Just flies away.
Flies. That's right here. It doesn't even exist. You know, you can't be stressed if you don't have a sense of time. Well, like our ancestors. How do you feel?
Great.
Great. I hear great. I hear terrific. I hear happy. I hear peaceful. I hear content. I hear joyful. Now, she's not in some altered universe or something, you know. She's just paying attention to the shadows, the lines, the colors. She's just involved with what you've all felt that at one point. Maybe you walk in the woods. Maybe someone does meditation, which is exactly what this is for, with a pet, with a book, with some music, with a grandchild. You know, I remember my first grandson was born. I said, oh, beautiful. Does he have 10 fingers? Does he have 10 toes? I wonder, I don't think my son can raise him. I don't know, who's going to pay for college? You know, and the moment was gone with this chattering mind. So what we have to do, we're not going to change our society. We're going to be time-based, frenzied, running around like crazies. And we're not suited for that, and it rots us from within, but we have to be able to accommodate. So how do we accommodate? Those moments, even if it's just seconds, a day or whenever, to stop the ever-growing stress that we have, because it does indeed grow exponentially. If she can just reboot it with just a moment. You can start with seconds, go to minutes and longer. And all those things I mentioned, meditation, walking, nature, books, whatever it is for you that stops this chattering mind, make sure that you take that time to do it. Make all the difference. You can complain about life, but it's best to, this is the way it is, you know? All right, purpose. Mary Oliver, this is a great line from her poem. It is. Oh, you know, your wild and precious life. You know, we may ask ourselves this when we're young, but what about now? Every day, asking us, what's to do with my wild and precious life? Einstein says there's 2 days that are most important in your life. The day you're born and the day you find out why. A purpose. You may think you had a purpose. Okay, but what about now? You need one now or you'll be withering. We need purpose, a reason to get out of bed, something to keep us going, you know. And where does that come from? Alfie Date gets it by knitting sweaters for penguins in Australia. He's 109. They've been exposed to oil, and they preen their feathers, they ingest the oil, and they die. But when they're wearing one of Alfie's sweaters, that's what does it for him. Again, it can be small, it can be big, but it's got to get you out of bed in the morning, a sense of purpose. The Dalai Lama has some advice, which is our purpose in life. This is how he sees it. And I do find that the purposes that really are powerful motivators and result in more likely in healthy longevity are those that involve other living things. Humans, animals, the planet, other living things. That tends to be what resonates with it. Kids in your life, other generations in your life, we tend to get isolated from these other generations. That is not normal. For all of our lives as a species, we were very intergenerational. In fact, older adults taught kids while the others were out hunter-gathering, the parents. And so this relationship is critical. And when it leaves us, there's a major emptiness, and you lose sight of sort of the circle of life. You lose sight of the role of the elder in life, which our society has done, but you will experience it personally without intergenerational contact. So, Dostoevsky, the writer, says the soul is healed by being with children. Mine is particularly with these children because they're my grandkids. Although the 2 middle ones are in college now, so. And laughing, what you just this moment did. You know, people who look at the world half full, you know, positive people, they live 7.5 years longer than the half empty ones. And it's by definition more pleasurable because they're happy. Norman Cousins, many years ago, wrote a book, Anatomy of an Illness. He was diagnosed with a terminal disease. And by laughing, getting Marx Brothers movies and candid camera episodes that he watched, he laughed, and he laughed himself into remission for 30 years. And he died of something else. So we know now, we didn't know then, but we know now that laughter and positive attitude, that stimulates our immune system, among other things, and it results in a better aging experience and more likely with a healthy longevity. So those are the 10. And you can get a copy of this. I'll make sure they have one for you if you want it. So, it's do or don't do. Don't be on the fence with this, all right? Yoda has said, you know, there is no try, there is do or don't do. Do or don't do. It's your life. But these things are easy to do. And to do them in small bites, why not? You really can't fail if you're patient and you just do it in small bites. Move, learn, make sure that you continue to have social connection and find your meaning and purpose now in life, which may change from day to day, but your meaning and purpose. Those things are magical in achieving healthy longevity. The research is very clear. You're like an iceberg, lots of potential. It's going to be your path. You're going to paint it, what it's going to be. Don't be like these guys. They became extinct. You know, they missed the boat. And George Eliot, Marianne, you know, this is true. It's never too early either to become what you might have. Maybe you wanted to swim the English Channel. Well, you're probably not going to do it now, but you can do it in a pool over a year's time or whatever. You know, see what I mean? I mean, it's your road. You're going to travel it, and the important thing is that you control your lifestyle rather than, you know, don't let your age control your lifestyle, but that lifestyle control your age. It's important that you are in a place and will continue to be in a place where you're connected to others, where you're active both physically and mentally, where you are fulfilled, where you find your meaning and purpose, and where you continue to grow. That's how we reach healthy longevity. We continue to grow, because the default position is indeed decline. Growing allows us to maintain that function, and we can grow. All right, I'm going to end there. I'll end with a story, by the way. Poor Ken has heard this story so many times. So when I was an intern in Maine, and one night I was in the emergency room and there was a blizzard, and we were very busy, a lot of snow. That's why you guys are here in Arizona. So I went out and I shoveled my car out for a couple hours. Finally got it off. It was a Volkswagen Beetle, you know, the first generation of Beetles. Probably everyone had one. And I tried to get in and the lock had frozen. It was so cold. I don't know if that ever happened to anyone with their Beetle. Maybe not here, but. And so I ran into the emergency room and I got a hot towel and I rushed out and tried to defrost it with that, and that didn't work. 2 or 3 times I did that. So then I got a candle, a Bunsen burner, and tried to warm up. That didn't work either. So I said to myself, you know, I have with me at all times a source of warm fluid. A source of warm fluid I have at all times. So I decided to defrost my lock that way, and there I am, defrosting my lock. Voice behind me says, "What are you doing to my car?" It was the same color as mine. Everyone had a Beetle. And right next to mine, I shoveled out the wrong car, so there you go.